Good morning. It's Monday, June 3rd, 2024, 9 a.m. This is Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First item on the agenda is to review the agenda. I would like to note that item number 14 would be changed from a closed session to a non-public session to discuss strategy and new union negotiations.
I will move to approve with those changes noted.
Second.
So I have a motion by Scott, second by Nathan. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item 3 is a public hearing on proposed amendments to the fiscal year 23-24 Muscatine County budget. Good morning, Kayla.
Morning. We don't have very many amendments this time around, so we'll just do a quick run through of them. So in Service Area 1, we're looking at amending certification cost reimbursements, jail food and provision, and attorney fine collections, all in Service Area 1. And then on the revenue side of it, 1.17 million, and that's due to federal inmate reimbursements, transport reimbursements, commissary, and fine collections. And then in Service Area 3, we're amending $27,000, and that's due to retirement payouts and director overlap at the community services. In Service Area 9, we're amending $700,000 of revenue due to interest investments. So overall, that gives us $136,850 that we're amending in expenditures and 1.87 in revenues. So an overall net increase of about 1.7 million. Anybody have any questions on any of those? Or?
Comments? And this is probably our final budget amendment before the end of the year.
It is. All right,
Okay.
thank you.
So public hearing, any member of the public wish to ask questions or comment? If not, I'd accept a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
I have a motion by Nathan,
Second.
second by Kurt. This is a roll call vote. Scott?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt.
Aye.
Okay, and item 3A is discussion of possible action to approve resolution 0603-2401, amending the fiscal year 23-24 budget.
So moved.
I have a motion by Nathan,
Second.
second by Scott. This is a roll call vote. Scott?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
Kurt?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number B is resolution 0603-2402, fiscal year 23-24 budget appropriations. Have a motion?
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay, a motion by Kurt, second by Danny. This is a roll call vote. Scott?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt?
Aye.
Item C is resolution 0603-2403, transferring funds from the county attorney fine collection fund to the general basic fund.
So moved.
I have a motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Danny. This is a roll call vote. Scott?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt?
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay, item number 4, items with Joshua Lay of Klinger and Associates. A is discussion of possible action affirming the chair's signing of the road right-of-way use agreement with Legacy Corporation for use during the Muscatine Island Levee Improvement Project. Morning, Josh.
Morning, guys. How's it
Morning.
going?
Good.
So as you know, I mean, you guys kind of already went through the process of getting that signed with Legacy, and thanks Jim, thanks Jeff for kind of getting that hashed out. I know it was different to try to do it before this meeting itself, but I did send you those copies. It was good to kind of get the contractor a week there last week to get a good chance.
It
to
sounds
get
like they've already begun work and
Yep.
begun hauling.
They're
down.
actually already about 10,000 cubic yards in down at Feature 2, so that's the overtopping, hardened overtopping structure. So they're making some good progress there. We brought some points to their attention with, they didn't have their signage up until I think it was Friday itself. So we got them on that. They got the signs, down at Feature 2 and at the Barrow for trucks entering highway, so we were a little bit annoyed with them that they didn't get that right off the get-go, but now they have that. Brian, I know you mentioned that you wanted some additional rock down at the Barrow, so they, I think, have taken care of that as of today. We're gonna go down and check to make sure, but, and then, besides that, they're basically at this point just filling in that low point down at the bottom of the levee, and then they're gonna be actually building that overtopping reach. And as soon as they're done with the earthwork for that, they'll actually be heading up and doing the Muscatine County portion, so from Maple Grove to the county line, kinda close to Mid-American, so.
Do you have a kind of an estimated time frame?
They're thinking probably the earthwork down at Feature 2 is gonna be maybe towards the end of June. So it's probably gonna be about July, I would think, before they're doing any sort of hauling, just directly within Muscatine County, kind of everything staying
Down
there.
south.
And they're still working on getting an agreement with the landowner across from River Trading to try to do a crossing there, Pettibone. And so, as soon as they get an agreement with that landowner, they'll get with Brian, they'll get with Jim, and then we'll try to get a haul agreement for that specific portion where they're gonna just have a crossing there. And we talked about having lights there instead of just signs and flaggers. They'd probably be easier to have. They might end up doing flaggers, but something where it's basically just haul trucks directly crossing Pettibone there. They'll probably have a plate over the road, and if they have any damages to the road, they'll have to repair that after the fact.
I might wanna say a few things if that's all right.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks. Morning. We ended up doing a haul road agreement for a variety of reasons, but I think it'd be fair to say in Muscatine County, at least historically, that's not a document that's maybe made its way to the Board of Supervisors. That's been handled more internally by the engineer's office. And so given things that might come up in the future, whether it be like windmill turbines, anything that would result in excessive traffic on the county roadways, I think it's appropriate to have an agreement in place to make sure we have some means and mechanisms of monitoring and making sure that people do what they're supposed to do for traffic that may be in that particular area. So that's why we did what we did. This agreement is only for Feature 2, which is the portion of work being done down in Loiza County. It is not Feature 1, as Josh has indicated. That will be the road crossing from the Barrow Pit towards the levee directly, if that comes to fruition. If that doesn't come to fruition, then it would go the regular route down Pettibone to 41st, and that's how they would access. The contract was bid, for your knowledge, with the 57th Street being used towards Pettibone and then going out around Bear. That changed and went east to Stewart Road instead, which increased the distance on 57th Street. The contract as it currently exists has a number in it for lineal foot to repair 57th Street, but that's towards Pettibone and not towards Stewart Road. So the reason I tell you all of that is that if we end up being able to cross the road, there'll be some savings in the contract for what would have been Pettibone and 41st Street and crossing directly over, and then a situation where repairs might be necessary to that piece. And there might be a change order going back towards Stewart Road on 57th because of the longer distance, if in fact it's damaged. And so you'll be getting another haul road agreement for Feature 1. Feature 1 is actually Phase 2 in the program we signed up for. Feature 2 is actually Phase 3 in the program that we signed up for, so you have to kind of connect those dots to make it make sense. And so I just wanted to share that with you because of the possibility of some change orders, another haul agreement coming down the road, and the possibility in the future that we might need a road haul agreement for some other things that I think would be beneficial to have the county board take a look at, because those sorts of things, if they go by and there's damage, have a significant impact to the county.
So we had on the contract, we had anticipated some potential damages, and there was unit prices govern, I would guess, on this contract, and so that the contractor, it's not really a, yes, there is a risk, but it's actually being borne by us as much as them because it's in our contract.
And these are, for feature two, are, supposed to be legal loads. And so they need to monitor, there's a requirement that they monitor that a bit to make sure that they're not getting loads out on the roadways that are beyond what they're licensed or permitted for. So all of that, again, is intended to hopefully start a process, not only for this project, but other projects in the future that would be helpful to the board. So just to give you a little more history. Thank you.
No, thank you.
If I understand correctly, the reason we're doing it like this with kind of the ratification is that just because we didn't have a meeting last week due to the holidays, is that right?
Right.
Correct, yep.
Lose like a full week of hauling and push the project.
I did agree to, I drafted and then ended up agreeing to
Yeah.
a modified version of the agreement, so I certainly recommend it to the board. I know Brian's looked at it and is satisfied with it.
Yeah.
Josh, and they'll keep up on making sure they follow the terms of the agreement, which signage was included in that.
Yep. I just wanna make clear to the folks who may be out there that we don't normally agree to something before we vote on it.
Correct.
Just a special circumstance.
I do appreciate it, though.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for trying to get that sorted out last week.
So I would take a motion to affirm the signing.
Also move.
I have a motion by Nathan,
I'll second.
second by Danny. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same? Motion carries. How about the whole project? So have we updated it or we got more going on?
I mean, I can give you guys some schedules if you wanna take a look at those. I don't think there's anything changed from the initial intent, if that's your question. I think we're still on track for the most part. I think they can make up time. They've been making some good progress this last week with earthworks. I don't think, they had some weather delays with just rain and it being too wet to kind of get in there and make a haul road and stuff at Brad Moss's property down there in Louisa County. But they seem to be on track. I think they're gonna make it up and hopefully be working on the Muscatine 3-mile stretch here in July, kind of like I mentioned earlier. So I can give you guys these if you want to take a look at them, and I can email them to you if you want. But this is kind of their anticipated schedule, and I accidentally only printed off 4, so I apologize for that.
Oh,
You guys
sure.
can- Okay.
Yeah,
You guys this one. Share that one. But they're about done with all their kind of mobilization and getting the borrow ready to go, and now at this point, they're just
About right here.
pulling borrow and putting it down at feature 2 and putting it on the levee, and then they're gonna be working on that overtopping here before too long. The site down there is a little bit tight, so they're having to kind of work around stockpiling where they're gonna put sand later, and then push that down the levee, and then at that point, once they get done with all that, they're gonna work on the overtopping itself, but
And the overtopping structure is concrete? It's
it's kind of like a turf with cementitious infill in it, so it's, I wouldn't say concrete, cause I'm an engineer and concrete's got gravel, like aggregate in it. This is more cement with, it's a specially designed synthetic turf that kind of works as like reinforcement fiber. That kind of keeps it all together, but it's actually, they test it against riprap and stuff for high flow conditions, and it's actually a little bit better than riprap for water velocity. But that should be, they probably won't, so they'll be doing earthwork on the Muscatine portion when they're probably doing a lot of the, addition of the cement type portion of that. So that's kind of gonna be going concurrently. That'll probably be around July when they're doing that. If you guys wanted to go down and take a look at it. It's kind of a new deal. I think the Corps wants to take a look at it too, so they're pretty interested with it.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of people understand that the levee system that we're talking about here is very rare. I think it's the only one on the Mississippi that's a full sand levee, if I remember in conversations with the Corps.
Well, there's some others that are, but a lot of their tiebacks are clay. So it's, yours is probably like 95% sand. And then just that little bit at the end, down on the south end where it comes back to the bluff, is a little bit of clay. It's actually right about where this structure goes in that it kind of turns to clay. But the entire rest of the stretch is all sand, so. And sand's really good for seepage and letting water come through the levee, so you don't get stuff trapped in a flood condition where you have water trapped in the levee and then you have a collapse. So it can be really good, kind of like a sandcastle for levees. You guys got any other questions about the project? I could probably talk your ear off about levees, so I don't want to waste all your time.
Nope.
Yeah,
No, we appreciate you coming in today and your work on the project to date, so.
Thank you guys for all your help.
It's good to finally see this going. I was trying to recall, when we started conversations about this, but it's been 12, 13 years, somewhere like that. And people think that these things happen overnight, but there's a lot of work and a lot of time invested by
Yeah.
engineers and other people to get through the processes to do this work, to actually finally start moving dirt.
I'm
So-
glad to see it going, because when I started, we worked on the permitting for Green Bay, and that one's still kind of trying to get through it. So it's good to see this one actually kind of moving.
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, item number 5 is item with the county engineer, Brian Horowski.
Good morning.
5A is discussion of possible action to approve the purchase of one 2024 smooth drum utility compactor.
Yes, so this request is to replace our current dual smooth drum roller. It's a 2012, and we're just starting to have some issues with it. So this was in my FY '25 capital expenditures. I was actually planning to try to purchase this later in the year, but some of our other equipment has been delayed, and it will be getting, our 24 equipment will be getting pushed into 25. So I do know that that there is a utility roller that's available, and so we decided to bring this up so we can get some money spent this fiscal year. So.
Okay.
And we do intend to trade, so.
Yeah, I think it's like a $5,000 trade-in or allowance or something. And this was a $36,000 for the new machine, something like that.
Yes, 36,660 is new, and then with the trade-in, 31,660.
I'll move.
I have a motion by Danny,
A second.
second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, the same? Motion carries. Anything else this morning? Matt?
Yeah, I want to give a little product update. Our bridge up on North Islet, which is IBC is doing that bridge. We poured the bridge deck last Friday, which is a big milestone in any bridge project. So hopefully they continue to get decent weather and they can finish up the bridge and start doing some dirt work. So we do have our pre-con tomorrow for our Moscow Road paving. That's with Manats. We really haven't gotten much as far as a game plan for their schedule. So usually when that happens, that means it's typically going to be later rather than earlier. So we'll see tomorrow, and hopefully I got something good to report on tomorrow next week. And then our pavement markings. That is Vogel Traffic Solutions. They showed up last week to start painting, and they realized that their materials weren't quite the correct materials. So they now have since pulled off, and they're waiting to get new materials. So it seems to be a constant deal in the pavement marking world is material availability. So
Yeah, I'm trying to understand why that's happened, what's going on. It's been like the last 3 or 4 years, right, that this
Yeah.
just crept up and all of a sudden been in. Is there an ingredient in these markings that's difficult to get, or?
the issue they're having is the glass beads. There's like a specific gradation of glass beads, and the specs are changing slightly, so that might be messing with them some. They do have the paint. The paint's been the biggest struggle the past few years, ever since the big freeze in Texas. Gosh, I don't even know when that was, 2020, 2019. I mean, it's going on a long time ago. But they make one of the main ingredients comes from there. And it has really thrown the whole industry into a conundrum past few years, so.
Yeah.
But luckily we have paint, so we have that box checked, it's just the beads. So,
Okay.
they're hoping to get back next week, is what they're hoping, so.
Okay.
That's all I had, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brian.
All right, item number 6 is discussion of possible action to approve resolution 0603-2404, suspending the collection of taxes. Should have had the information in your packet.
Let's see here.
This is a routine when we get notification from DHS about an individual being eligible to have the taxes suspended. The code says we shall. There's no option in it. And then what happens is, at whatever point that house exchanges hands, is sold to somebody else, and the taxes have to be caught up at that time. So we
This is
don't lose out on
This is
the
a
taxes.
suspension of taxes.
Yeah, and
it's
they don't
not
accrue
an
interest.
abatement or,
Yeah.
yeah. Motion by Nathan and a second by Scott. Any further discussion? This is a roll call vote. Scott?
Aye.
Nathan?
Aye.
I vote aye. Danny?
Aye.
And Kurt?
Aye.
Motion carries. Item number 7 is discussion of possible action to approve a renewal of an Iowa retail cigarette, tobacco, nicotine vapor permit for Stewart Road Truck Stop, 2418 Stewart Road, Muscatine.
So moved.
I have a motion by Scott, and a second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item 8 is discussion of possible action to approve the minutes of the May 2024 regular meeting.
So moved.
Motion by Scott,
Second.
second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item number 9, correspondence. Scott, did you have anything to note?
The only correspondence I had is I received a call from a resident regarding the 3D houses that were built and out there, and I wasn't able to give him much information, and he had a number of other questions, and I told him that he could come and ask questions to the board, and possibly I could answer better for him. That's all I had.
Nathan?
I imagine I had the same call, wasn't able to get him called back, unfortunately. I also had a contact from an individual in or around Moscow asking about placement of speed limit signs. I talked to Brian about it, so now I have some information to get back to her on.
All I had was I had an email from a resident on 245th, Mr. Hausman, expressing his discontent with the process.
I had that same call, and I was out golfing yesterday, I didn't get a return call to him on the 3D housing. That's all I had.
Kurt?
I had the same call on the 3D housing. I did talk to him this morning. I told him what Scott said to come here and talk. Also on, I don't know, the 23rd, a follow-up call with Bill Furlong. He had missed the visioning meeting and wanted to know where to send his issues, complaints, suggestions. And I talked to Eric and got him that email, so got that process in.
Okay. Committee reports. Kurt, did you have a committee?
Yeah, the 22nd May, the visioning meeting in West Liberty for the county comprehensive plan. And then just an FYI that this Saturday at the Muscatine County Fairgrounds, we'll be having harness racing, horses again. So
Cool.
they're in the process of getting the track. That's the first race of the year this year there.
Didn't they run those last year?
Yeah, this is our 5th year, I think.
Fifth
now.
year?
Yeah.
And they were pretty well attended, as I recall.
Yep. Yep. You can come bet on them too if you get the money.
Well, that might be a big one.
What time? That's a good question. I think it's noonish. I'll let you know. Yeah, it's around noon.
Okay, Danny?
On the 21st, I had the landfill committee meeting. I see you got it on the agenda item, so we'll have a discussion down there on that. The 23rd, Bi-State Trails Committee. The 29th, full board chamber meeting. and on the 29th, Finance Committee meeting for Mississippi Valley Workforce Development. That's all.
And I had, on the 21st, I had a Robert Young Center Board meeting. On the 22nd, I had a bi-state commission meeting. And on the 22nd, I also attended the comp plan update in West Liberty. Nathan?
On the 23rd, I had Community Action of Eastern Iowa meeting. This is we alternate each month, so one month we have kind of an informal informational meeting. This was our every 2-month big meeting, lasted about 3 hours, a lot to go over. But also shortly after that, we received the resignation of our director, so we're gonna be looking for a new director there. That's it.
All none? And I had no committee reports.
Okay. Next item with the administration office. Item number 11A is discussion of possible action authorizing the chair to execute the 24-25 contract for specialized transportation services with River Bend Transit in the amount of $7,000.
So moved.
I have a motion by Nathan,
Second.
second by Scott. Any discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item B, discussion possible action authorizing the execution of the well-marked third-party administration documents for 24-25.
This just renews, Walmart is our third-party administrator. We're basically self-funded. So we're paying, they pay the claims and then they settle up with us. This just authorizes Walmart to continue to be our third-party administrator for next year.
So it looks like we're gonna see a little bit of an increase across the board on the plans going in for the 24-25, right?
Well, and that's the next item, is to talk about the premiums.
Okay.
So this is,
This just authorizes us to sign all the renewal paperwork.
yeah.
So moved.
I have a motion by Nathan, a second by Kurt. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same?
I should have added health insurance increases to death and taxes as the only other.
Item 11C is the action to set the 24-25 health and dental premiums. I believe that's what you had in your packet there.
Yep, and that was the proposed premiums are in your packet. The current year that we're in, we've seen a significant increase in health insurance costs. These premium amounts are, number one, an attempt to get us backed up so we don't run the risk of not being approved by the state. As a self-funded plan, we get reviewed by the state every year. If they don't feel we have adequate funding for it, they'll shut us down. And then we have no choice but to go buy full insurance somewhere out there on the market.
Which we did look at that. And
Right, the consultants
an
reviewed
additional-
that and strongly recommended that we remain as self-funded plan and remain with Walmart because of the deep discounts we can get from them because of their provider agreements. The other thing that I looked at doing when I worked on setting these premiums is what I'd seen over the last 2 years is Plan 3, which is our lowest cost plan. The premiums we were seeing there, some of those were subsidizing basically Plan 1. Basically, we weren't charging enough for Plan 1 based on what people who have Plan 1 are spending. That's you see your biggest increase there is to Plan 1 to try to get that straightened out. The consultants also recommended that we offer an HMO option. The options we currently have are PPOs, and with an HMO, you have to pick a primary provider, and if you do not use somebody who participates in the HMA, then the employee's costs are higher. The other thing is that you can't go to specialists without prior authorization and a recommendation from the doctor. When looking at it, we have a number of employees who frankly are younger, when they come in for their orientation, they say, I'm never sick, I don't use any insurance. So then they end up taking the current plan 3. The consultants felt by offering an HMO option, that's an opportunity for those people who don't feel that they need much coverage. That's an opportunity for it to be even less expensive for them.
So the new Plan 3 HMO option then
Looks like it's a little cheaper, could save them a little money.
would be, how does that compare to the current employee cost?
Well,
Plan 3.
the current employee cost for Plan 3 is $50.
Okay,
I'm recommending that go to $60 for the upcoming year, but the Plan 3 HMO for single coverage would only cost the employee $25 a month.
so there would be a reduction in
Yep.
cost for members that would,
Yep.
that would be appropriate. And then, so it looks like they're also saying we could look at a Plan 2, add an HMO option there. It would still be an increase over what Plan 2 costs today for the individual, but it would be a lower increase than what they will experience if they don't do the HMO. Is that correct? Am I
If
reading
they
that
go
right?
with the Plan 2 HMO, it will be less expensive than what they're currently paying for Plan 2. Because right now for Plan 2, they're currently paying $80. And it's going up to $105. So if they stay with Plan 2, and they have single coverage, their costs will go up $25.
So they technically drop from 80 to 75.
If they choose to do Plan 2 HMO, they would actually drop that cost by $5.
So, despite costs going up, we're offering some cheaper options for folks who
Yes,
want it.
we are.
And it looks like even with that, we're still, as the employer, covering between 2/3 to 90% of the cost, depending on the plan.
Depending on the plan, yep. Yep, I had put a 5% increase into the budget for the upcoming year to deal with, potential cost increases, and that's exactly, the county is going from $1,000 a month to $1,050. So we're throwing 5% in to cover that increase.
Thanks.
And then the dental, we pretty much are holding our own, so my recommendation is we don't change those premiums for next year.
Okay. Any comments, questions further? So the proposal is, Nancy, we would add 2 additional choices?
Yes,
It's not in lieu of,
no, we're adding those as options.
as options, okay?
And Wellmark has said typically Wellmark has a rule that you can't, if you don't have at least 10% of your people sign up in a plan,
Then we drop it.
they drop it. Because this is new, we're trying it, they're not gonna hold that 10% rule to us for, I think they said the first 2 years.
2 years?
Yeah, I believe that's what they
That
said.
would usually be, okay.
Cool. I'll move to approve.
Motion by Nathan,
I'll second.
second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item D is action to set the health insurance annual enrollment and dental insurance open enrollment periods for FY 24 to 25. And the proposal is from June 5th through the 19th of 2024.
And this is, we're pretty late in the game. Typically this is something that happens the last half of May. But while waiting for, the consultants to get their stuff back and sorting through that, we're pretty late in the game here. So, we're giving employees just a 2-week period, which is less than they usually have, but, we're gonna work aggressively to get this taken care of and in place by July 1st.
When you give that out to the employees, will there be a little bit of an explanation for them on this, these 2 new plans? So they
There'll be an explanation on PPO versus HMO,
Okay.
so that they understand what they're signing up for if they switch.
Are we planning to offer any meetings with families or employees to do a general, Q&A so they can understand?
At this point, typically when we've offered meetings like that before, we don't have anybody show up.
Yeah.
If somebody really has questions and wants to talk, they prefer to do it one-on-one. So I'm certainly gonna be as available as I can the next 2 weeks, for people who actually wanna come in and
Just
talk
as you've
about
done
it.
in the past.
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Okay.
Very good.
I'll move.
I'll second.
I have a motion by Danny, a second by Scott. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, the same. Motion carries. Item E is discussion of possible direction regarding the Muscatine County Solid Waste Management Agency and current 28E agreement.
So,
Danny, this is yours.
so on this, I'm on that solid waste committee or board, and there was some concerns with, the 28E, the existing 28E and the existing contract with between the city being old and out of date. They're from 1973 and 1975. So I sent that email to the board, and Jim responded to us. I reached out and spoke to Carol Webb, the city administrator, and she was in agreement that it was on their end to move forward, and they've kind of put it on the back burner for a while. She said she'd bring it to the forefront. So really, at this time, we're on hold. There's nothing more this board can do at this time. The city's supposed to be working on them new agreements, and then once we get those in place, we can have a discussion on how we'll move forward as the county, however that pertains, whatever they come up with on those two agreements.
Yeah, I mean, this is an agreement that's been long-standing, and I think this agency is one that I think that as we move forward, we need to think, it's been over the years, and I don't know how many members have participated on IHAD, that, it's very difficult to get a quorum with the agency based on the makeup of the 28E. So it's virtually impossible to transact business. It's very difficult when you have an organization that you can't get a quorum of members to vote. And so I think we have to take, we'll use Jim's guidance, I think, and kind of experience and go through this. But basically, it's considered a county landfill, but the city of Muscatine owns the land. City of Muscatine operates the landfill and has under a contract agreement and provided services. And the county pays, we remit money for the,
Each of the members remits money to the city.
for those services.
Yeah.
So we pay on behalf of the unincorporated county residents. All the incorporated cities in the county that utilize that landfill service would pay to the city of Muscatine for it. I know a number of years ago, I think Wilton bowed out and they go to Cedar.
Yeah, I think
but
Wilton goes to Cedar County now, and so they got, in the new 28E, they wouldn't be included in it.
So, sounds like it's a good project. Okay, so as far as this, I think we're just on
Yeah,
hold until,
we're on hold until we get some more direction from the city.
okay. Anything else, Nancy, this morning?
I don't have anything else.
Okay, item number 12 is to receive information from county employees. Any county employees wishing to address the board?
As you probably noticed, the courthouse roofing project is underway. They've started erecting the scaffolding. They weren't on site yet when I stopped and did a walk around this morning. We've taken steps to try to tape off and barricade some of the high traffic and dangerous areas. That's gonna be kind of a work in progress as they move around to different parts of the building, but just to let you know that everything is kind of in full swing now, and we'll be in constant communication with the jail and Oscar and courthouse administration staff to try to keep the building, we will keep the building open, but deal with the traffic and the obvious issues and of trying to coordinate all that. So if you have any questions, if anything comes up, get a hold of me immediately, because it'll be a constant moving parts.
Do they plan to fully scaffold, or they're just doing
Yeah.
sections?
Sounds like at some point there'll be scaffolding around the majority of the building.
Yeah, because I know they're working on all the integral gutters, and there's only one way to get to those points, and
Yeah,
that's from the front.
and I think because they indicated they want to maintain some flexibility to, if a trial comes up on a certain portion, that their activity would be disruptive, that they might be able to jump over and work on different, they're well aware, they've got experience, Renaissance does, working on courthouses of being noise problems, and so they're taking steps to try to maintain some flexibility through the project as well. But that means that you gotta have the infrastructure around the whole thing to be able to jump here and there and deal with what comes up.
Did I see, were they the ones with the lay down over by behind the old jail? or in
Yes,
that area?
that's their laydown.
That's them as
and
well.
Staging area, yeah.
Okay. Cause we also have the cladding project on the jail coming, right? We haven't
Coming.
seen any mobilization on that?
Not yet, no. Mike reached out to them, and I apologize, I was on vacation last week, kind of checking, and I don't think we've got a firm update. We'll have a pre-construction meeting on that as they get ready to mobilize. We've met with jail staff and have a plan in place for that laydown area, which we're gonna try to keep actually on the jail parking portion. They didn't indicate they would need a whole lot of space, so we hope to avoid them shuttling those panels across Walnut Street if we can help it, so we'll just defer some of the jail staff parking over to our county property and try to keep them on the jail site, but that is coming too, so, and it should be happening while the courthouse project goes, so. That's all I have.
Thank you, Eric. Any other county employees wishing to address the board? Okay, item third.
I'd just like to maybe, Tybee, you'd like to take a second and talk about how things are sizing up for the election and where you're at on your overall information on that?
Sure. The primary election is tomorrow, Tuesday, June 4th. If you're voting at the polls, all polls across the state of Iowa and in Muscatine County will be open from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you need to know where your polling location is, please call the auditor's office at 563-263-5821, or you can look it up on the Secretary of State's webpage. There's a very easy way to put in your address. It gives you the address of your polling location, name and address. Today is still early voting that's allowed in Iowa. You can vote in person, early vote at the county auditor's office from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. today. And as far as absentee voting and our numbers, we were right around 300 and a little over 350 this morning of people that have either early voted in person or it also includes by mail. So, okay.
Thank you, Tybee.
Thanks.
And just as a reminder to the board, in conjunction with that, we will need to do a canvass next Tuesday. So in addition to Monday morning's meeting, Tuesday morning, we'll meet briefly to do the canvass. Thank you.
Okay, item 13 is receive comments from public. Anyone, members of the public wishing to address the board on an issue not on the agenda, step to the podium, give your name and address and issue.
Mark Temple, 720 Leroy Street. My concern is the 3D houses. There's a lot of money from the government getting thrown into it, and there's zero progress. In fact, there's half of a house still piled up that they haven't even hauled away. No one's mowed, no one's done anything. I'm a contractor, and I was told by Mr. Sorensen 5 years ago when there was an embargo, hey, when you just have to keep going through. You have to truck through it. And I don't see any progress out there at all. Zero.
To my knowledge, the 3D houses have been put on hold for now. There were some houses out there that was done with the community foundation, and that's a private deal, so I'm not sure. I don't believe there's any government money in those. There was another project in town to build 6 3D houses that had $1.8 million of they received a grant. They put that on hold, but they allowed them to transfer that $1.8 million in to build regular stick-built homes. So, to my knowledge now, no 3D houses are being moved forward at this time, and I don't know what they're gonna do on tearing that one down and getting it cleaned up, but.
Well, I think they have 3 foundations or 3 slabs in the ground with rough in, right? And the last word I had was that they are looking at, trying to come up with concepts using additive manufacturing, so you define that to me, I don't know exactly what that is, to do that. I think if you have, questions or comments or concerns, probably the best person to talk to would be Ron Monahan at the Community Foundation. He's the Housing Initiatives Manager and has been running that program. I know the contractor involved in the foundations you're speaking about, Mark, is Haggerty Earthworks. They were the GC on that, and I don't know where their plans are or what they'll do. I would agree with you about site conditions and cleanup. Normal contractor would be keeping this a little bit more neat and orderly, but that's a conversation probably with
But
Ron.
they're slab on grade,
Yes.
and they were not frost protected.
They frost protected them last fall.
They did not.
Well, I would beg to differ. They put heat blankets on them all winter, Mark. I saw it. And they had insulation in the foundations, and they put an antifreeze in the piping, so. But again, the contractor did that last year.
Does the community foundation own these three?
Yes.
Yeah, that's private.
And that was
that's a
done
whole
with private
deal.
private
Private donations, yeah.
funds. The money you're speaking about, the 1.6, and I don't know.
1.8, I think it was.
1.8 million was for, and I think that's, I don't know, those are targeted in the.
Over here by
in
the,
neighborhood revitalization project, so you're looking at an area roughly from Mulberry to, well, Fifth to, what is it, Eighth?
the
Fifth to Eighth, and Mulberry to, I don't know how far over, two or
the
three
last,
lots.
the last I spoke to Ron about that though, they had scrapped putting 3D houses up. They talked to the state about seeing if they could use them funds for stick-built homes. And to my knowledge, that's the next step, is to not build 3D, but they're still gonna build them home, cause they realize the need of the housing over there.
And they're gonna build them over here.
There should be all in that same neighborhood. I think that's a requirement of the
By
grant over
Mulberry
there
now.
around, Hy-Vee Main Street.
Yeah, I
in
think
that area.
they're in the property acquisition, or, last I knew, they had a couple of lots that they were working on, and they were working on a pattern book or designs for.
Who owns the subdivision that I'm talking about?
That is owned by a company called Ace Signature Homes. What are you talking about, the lots that are?
Yeah.
Ace Signature Homes is a company,
So
owns
is
all
there
the lots.
not the weeds are that tall?
That would go under city ordinance, cause it's a city subdivision. The city owns the infrastructure, and so if there's an issue on a nuisance, then it would be under the normal city process. You call the city and say, hey, there's weeds.
Because if
and then
I
they-
owned it, you know damn well, you would be.
You'd get a call from the city.
Right, that would be a city concern though, cause nothing we can do on that, on this board. And there's no, to my knowledge, there's no, federal or state money in those projects. That's all private, so it's nothing we can have any control over.
And I do think, last I talked with John Haggerty, in Ron, and I'll have to admit, I'm a little bit out of touch with that, that they were planning to construct homes. I thought we would have seen, you'd seen them constructed already, but, wheels of the bureaucracy move slow, so. That's about all we know.
So you're gonna allow them to build on a slab that
We have
has
nothing to do with
had
that. That's-
frost?
That's not our jurisdiction.
That's the city of Muscatine.
We have no control over that one. way or the
Yeah,
other.
we can't do nothing.
Okay. Any other members of the public wishing to address the board on an issue? Okay, seeing no one come forward, we are gonna enter into a non-public session to discuss strategy and new union negotiations. So about a 5-minute recess here. It's 9:50. We'll come back at 9:55 to do that.